You're listening to Hello, Good Life, the podcast where we help you define what your good life means to you. We're diving into the nitty-gritty of creating an intentionally good life that you love, from the good, the bad, to the downright ugly, and everything in between. Here's your host, Shay Rubsky.
Hi, how are you? I am so excited to be coming to you today to talk with you about a new method that I'm putting together where it's really about balancing your business, balancing your career, if that's what you're doing, balancing your life, especially for the busy mom. We are in, and I know I talk about seasons of life quite a bit, but we are in the season of life where our kids are in sports. And so most weekends right now, especially in the summer at the time that I'm recording this, we are at a baseball tournament. We're at a softball tournament. Our daughter has their dance team here goes for 3 seasons versus 1. And so on top of softball now, she has dance practices. And at the end of, in about a month, our son starts football practice. And so one of the things that I look at when I am trying to manage my time, manage my schedule, manage me essentially, because that is exactly what we need to be doing as the CEO of our life and CEOs of our business, our careers, etc., is really where I find the time to take care of me, to take care of my life, and essentially how I want to show up. So I'm going to share with you today a little bit about how to balance your business, how to balance your life, how to really balance yourself so that you are, I don't think that there's this what's the word that I'm looking for? There's not this one size fits all. I don't think that there's a work-life balance, as people say. I do think that there's a way to have this cohesiveness where your life ebbs and flows differently when you are taking these 4 things that I'm going to be teaching you today into consideration. So it's called the time method, and let's jump right in. Okay, so the first thing in the time method is, first let me tell you what it stands for so that you know what we're going to be talking about. So the T stands for time, the I stands for intentional, the M stands for money, and then the E stands for energy. And let's jump into essentially the time. The biggest piece that I noticed for me, and again, this is what I'm sharing from my perspective. If you notice something different, that's a-okay. But what I've noticed for me is that I was wasting a lot of my own time. And then I started to do some research. Like there were times where I would come home. Well, I work from home, but after getting the kids to where they needed to go, and then I would come home, I would sit down, do my client work, and then I would kind of be just a bundle of, let me go on social, let me scroll, let me do this, let me do that. And what I found out after doing some research, after really diving into the numbers, is that the average person spends 2 hours on social media a day. So the specific number was 2 hours and 23 minutes. And they said most people spends upward of 4 hours on social a day. But for the sake of being the devil's advocate, I reduced it to 2 hours because I could generally say most people I know get lost in the scroll, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Facebook, whatever. So we're going to round it down to 2 hours. But that's 2 hours per day. That's not including on the weekends. Again, they said most spend upwards of 4. So we're going back down to 2. And now let's just say the average month is 30 days long. That means we're spending 60 hours a month. And again, that's the low end, 60 hours a month on social media. We are consuming other people's content. We are messing up our cortisol levels, messing up our stress levels for 60 hours a month. That is a work week and a half. And again, this is the lower end. So if you're on that higher end, it could be 2 full work weeks. It could be 3 full work weeks, depending on where we are. And that was a big eye opener to me. A week and a half, each month of my time, a work week and a half is wasted scrolling, consuming other people's content. every single month. I'm losing 60 hours of my life to go just use my thumb to scroll up and down. For me, it was embarrassing to think about. I'm not being present. I'm scrolling just to get that dopamine hit. I'm not being a productive member of society, in my opinion. And now I know that's a little serious, but I'm really thinking I'm spending this time not bettering myself, not bettering the world, not really moving the needle towards my goals. And when I realized that, that was a huge eye opener for me. I recognized that I was not managing my time effectively. And so when I did look at that, I said, you know what? I'm going to have my VA post to TikTok for me if I want to post to TikTok. And I give myself, I was on TikTok yesterday for 10 minutes, but I give myself 15 minutes to scroll on Facebook and then I'm done. And the majority of the time I'm going on to post on the Brewer games, like the comments there, because I'm a big sports person. I like really looking at like why people do the things they do in sports and like their training and their mindset around things. And so I'm going to post like my comments around how I think the game went. And I do my best to stay off of Facebook, off of Instagram, and schedule my posts out so that I am not losing that time. So one of the things with the time management I really want you to think about is, where are you losing that time? And again, it doesn't mean you can't scroll. It doesn't mean that you can't really take that downtime, as we call it, which if you actually look at your blood pressure, look at your cortisol rates, it's not the downtime that we think it is, but that is a whole different episode. But what can you do to manage your time most effectively? What sort of example can you set? And another thing that I noticed is that when I was scrolling, my daughter is scrolling or my son is scrolling. He's more so watching Riverdale, but that's a whole different subject. But I wanted to really think about, what example am I setting for my children? Do they see me in bed just scrolling on my phone? Like, that's kind of sad. Do they see me on the couch just scrolling on my phone? It's the balance here. Like, how can I be more productive and be more of an example so that they don't think, oh, that's just what we do. We scroll on our phones when we're bored. And I want you to think about that in a sense that, where can you change some things for you in order to fit better into your life? Because I noticed I'd say, oh, I don't have time. Yet I had time to scroll on Facebook, and really took that step back. And I actually was able to start working out again. I was able to like make healthier dinners. I was able to plan better. I was actually getting better sleep too. When I am not scrolling on social, I find that I get the best night's sleep. And that was important to me. So, really looking at your time. Are you blocking off your workout times? Are you blocking off your being present time with your family? Are you blocking off your being present time with yourself? One of the things with my time management that I've actually implemented is I actually schedule in 30 minutes of learning each Monday through Friday so that I am continuing my skills for my Facebook ads, doing my personal development. I'm learning about human design because I'm getting certified in human design, and really just honing in on those things to help me move in the right direction. So, where can you time block? Where can you prioritize your important tasks? Where can you potentially delegate or outsource things? And it might not be, hey, I can't afford to pay somebody. Okay, well, I'm going to give my kids this extra chore to help me out this week. And they might not have to keep it forever, but let me get through some of the busy times and get some of the things off of my plate. So that's the big T for time. Where can you manage your time better? Where can you time block? Where can you delegate? Where can you prioritize? Next is being intentional, which actually plays hand in hand with time, because I was not being intentional with my time when I was scrolling on social or binge watching shows. Again, there's a time and a place. Do not get me wrong. I will go ham on Christmas movies, but that's not my norm. That's the opposite of my norm. That's on a day where I know I need to take that time for myself and do that. And so, where are we being intentional with our actions? Where are we making conscious, deliberate decisions that really align with our goals and with our values? Are we setting clear goals? Are we prioritizing our tasks? Are we allocating our time resources, our energy wisely in a way that really pushes us and propels us forward? When we're not choosing intention, when we're being reactive, which means we're reacting to everything happening to us, we are living in that reactive place versus the proactive place where we're like, okay, I know this week I have this. I'm going to schedule or allot dinners wisely, being intentional versus, oh, it's Tuesday. I know the kids have this now, and we have nothing for dinner. We don't have snacks. We don't have anything. And so really being intentional with like how we're doing things, how we're setting ourselves up for success. I find when I use my time intentionally and when I use those two things hand in hand, I am a night and day different person. When I don't pay attention to it, I find that that's when I am more frazzled, when I am more high, more low, not even keeled. And when I would use my Sundays to plan my time and be intentional with how I wanted to show up for the week, I would show up in a much higher frequency, in a much higher emotionally intelligent person. Whereas when I would not do that, when I would not really look at things, evaluate what's going on, set the intent, I would be more so prone to a more negative energy because I would be in reactive mode all week. And that's just not fun for me. It's not fun for the kids. It's not fun for my husband for me to show up like that. So, where can you get intentional with your actions? Again, like I said, where can you set your clear goals and then build your life and your time around those goals that you're setting? Where can you maintain your focus? Where can you evaluate your progress with how you're doing these goals, with how you're being intentional? Because you can't increase, you can't assess your progress if you're not tracking it, if you aren't making the necessary adjustments to move yourself forward, if you're not reflecting on what is and isn't working and then adjusting your life around it. I find for me, when I was not being intentional, I would just kind of go by the seat of my pants and not really focus on what I want my day to day to look like. And that was kind of, it didn't work well for me. Okay, so that's the I, intentional. Next is our money. And this can be real uncomfortable for some. I'm not going to go too deep into this because we all have so many different financial goals. We have different financial challenges, obstacles, things like that. So, what I want to say for your money is, are you budgeting the way that you need to for your lifestyle, for your life? Are you budgeting in your business, in your life for the future? One of the things my husband and I had to have a hard conversation with is that we are going to have two drivers within 18 months of each other. And like insurance, even if they don't have cars and they're just using our cars, insurance for two teens is going to significantly increase our car insurance. We have two kids who are in travel sports and will be doing potentially their high school teams and travel teams. Where are we going to be allocating that in the budget? What can we do now so that when we do get to that piece where it's like, oh, hey, here's the extra money we need to push out. Where are we allocating it now? How are we setting ourselves up for that moving forward? And these are some of the conversations that we're having live as we're navigating this time in our life. So, really, how are you being proactive? What can you do to look at your finances and not? One of the things I used to do is I would freak out when we would look at our finances and I would get really defensive. And so what I've done recently is said, maybe it's not just like the defensive, the like, oh my gosh, we're talking about money and money is so taboo. It's okay, let's get curious. Why is money taboo? Why are people uncomfortable doing this? Why am I uncomfortable having a conversation with the person I've been with for 16 years? Like all of these things are really just building up to having a more healthy money story, changing the narrative around how I view money and how it's more about being abundant and proactive and financially secure versus, oh my gosh, we need to come up with another $3,000 for kids' activities. It's really just changing the piece around how we're looking at it differently and being proactive versus the reactivity that we have had in the past. So think about this for you, like with the story I just shared, like having these conversations with my husband. How can you look at this differently so that you aren't coming in, if that's your story? Maybe your story is different and that's okay too. Maybe your story is like, we don't mind talking about money. We know that it'll always be replenished and we are completely okay, or I'm okay with that. And that's great too. Maybe that's just not your focus point right now. But if it is, really get curious around the story that you've built around it, what you've taken from your past, from how you grew up, and what you're bringing into now, and how you can change that story. Because remember, a belief is just a story we've told ourselves. It doesn't have to be true. You can change a belief if that's what you feel like you need to do. And then finally, let's talk energy, friends. Energy is so important for us, especially as moms, especially as a parent. If you're a dad listening to this, like managing our energy and really honing in on that is so important to our productivity. It's so important to the frequency that we show up in, whether we're showing up consistently happy, consistently joyful, or whether we're showing up fairly sarcastic, fairly pessimistic all the time. You really need to focus on how you're managing and taking care of your internalness. One of the things I did want to talk about that I did not think about until recently are some of the energy drains. Multitasking. I find when I'm jumping from task to task to task, I am being the least productive and using up the most energy, which leaves me feeling tired and exhausted. A lack of sleep. I was just talking about this before. Like when you aren't getting enough sleep, it's going to affect really how you cognitively function. It's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect your energy levels, and it affects how you react to things. I found when I was so sick, when I was so tired, like I was a bit more of a hot mess and I was breaking down more and I was doing not well, essentially. Another thing that either works or does not work is a poor diet, or a diet in general. How you eat your food, what kinds of foods you're eating, what you're putting in your body. That is huge on your energy. I find that when I am having certain unhealthy carbs, like breads, wheats, burgers, like things that aren't conducive to me, that within an hour I'm exhausted. And I know that I cannot be doing any really heavy thinking work, and I have to be mindful of that. So maybe start to notice, okay, I'm putting this into my body. How do I feel within an hour or two? Am I tired now? Am I ready for a nap? Which is a common theme for me. Really think about it. Stress, like stress is such a huge energy drain when you're not managing it effectively. There's always going to be stress. And I think one of the biggest things us as moms can do is to learn how to effectively manage stress. I think I'll do a different podcast episode on that because we just don't have time to get into it now. But it is a physical and mental drain to our energy. And it can lead to burnout when we aren't managing it properly. It means letting it flow through and releasing it. A lot of us feel the stress and we're like, I don't want to feel the stress. And then the stress stays in us because we're like, I don't want to feel it. But until we release it, you're going to feel that physical and mental energy drain. These are just a few things that I wanted to talk about with the managing the energy. Some of the things that I do to help me manage energy is yoga. I do a meditation that's a cord cutting meditation from a paid program I'm in. I'll find a couple that are on YouTube that I'll share that are free. But really, like cutting other people's energy, especially with me being an empath, and like it's so interesting. I can walk into a room and I feel so many different people's energy. And by the time I'm like done engaging or in people's presence, like when I get home, I am exhausted. And so I have to cut that energy, especially as an empath, especially as a mom, especially when my kids have people coming in and out throughout the day. Their friends are over or we're at games and stuff. And you don't realize the energy you take on from others until like you're home and you're like, ooh, I peopled a lot today. And that's normal, but you just have to remember that you can cord cut. You can remove some of that excess energy from you so that you are getting back to yourself faster to help manage your energy levels. Another thing I do is exercise regularly. I have been incorporating more vegetables into my diet. I'm aiming for 7.5 hours of sleep a night. I'm taking more regular breaks too from work because when I'm sitting at the computer for hours and hours and hours, I find by the time I'm done, my hips hurt because I've not moved. I've forgotten to eat. I've forgotten to use the bathroom. and I'm a bit of a mess. So really setting a timer either on my phone or on my computer so that I'm like, hey, get up, move around, do some stretching. I'm finding that I'm managing my energy better. I'm more productive, and I'm not leaving work by the end of the day completely exhausted. Okay, that's all I have for now. I have so much more that I want to share with you, but I'm realizing that I should probably cut each of these into their own podcast episodes just because I want to make sure that the content I'm giving you is consumable in bite-sized pieces. I don't want it to be 30, 40 minutes, an hour, unless I'm doing an interview where we can dive deeper in. But I really want you to say, wow, I got some good nuggets from this. I can take this and I can implement it versus, hey, here's an hour-long thing. I know you're a busy mom with kids, with activities, with your own personal life. I want you to be able to consume this in bite-sized chunks. So let me just do a brief recap. We talked about the time method today, which is time, intention, money, energy. We talked about some ways that we can actually be proactive versus reactive, how we can manage our time, be intentional, move our bodies, really manage our energy in a way that works best for us. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that actually what I would love for you to do is share a few nuggets of what you found helpful from this. Comment below. Let me know how you feel. Like, what are some things that you're going to be doing differently so that you can really like hone in on this time method and really get your life back. Thank you so much for being here. I will chat with you soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Hello, Good Life. To connect more with us, check out soulfueledlife.com.